Now on with the Twitter feed. Twitter IPO highlights big money friction in San Francisco. So I went to that rally and we talked about that last time. And so that's going to be it for the Twitter feed. Now I've got, and Kamala Harris shut down the fraudulent healthcare scam websites. So that's something you probably won't hear on the regular news. GOP plan for healthcare is sabotage the ACA website. So that's pretty much their healthcare plan. And chemtrails, got more tweets about that. You can go to my Twitter feed, follow me at Denise Dorey, and I'll give you a follow back. Okay, and FDA approved CBD treatment for children. Now CBD, as we know, is the kind that doesn't get you high, and most of the people in the cannabis community call it bunk. So yeah, it'll, but it actually isn't bunk if you are having seizures. San Francisco lawmakers passed up too many chances to revitalize Market Street without selling the soul of the city to the tech industry. And also, we went back, Monsanto is poised to take over the weed industry. So they want to genetically modify cannabis and control it, make it so the seeds don't grow and all sorts of things like that. So that's not good. Urge Congress not to fast-track the TPP. I have a petition on my Twitter feed, so I hope you can sign it. The TPP is the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and it takes away a lot. We're actually giving up our sovereignty. So that's something, we can't even be part of the conversation. So that's just unthinkable. That better not go through. John Avalos proposed, and I covered this on my past shows, Axis of Love show and others. Now, the medical cannabis advocates say Avalos' proposal will lead to similar piecemeal restrictions in other neighborhoods. And there's articles in every paper literally about it, so it's not hard to get to the information. But we're saying most of the people that went in to give testimony about it and public comment, there were people in the room that weren't giving public comment, and I was suspicious about that. I was like, well, are they on the other side of this issue? So I'm going to report it as I call it. So they want to have this could be used in other areas because the green zone has been canceled out. Now they want to take away the green zone, and so we just want to see if that's going to create a monopoly. So now the 8 points of concern that they always talk about is like the distribution to minors, the diversion to other states, the state authorized, as a cover for other other illegal operations, violence and firearms during cultivation and distribution, drug driving and other adverse, I'll just say quote, growing on a public land, possessing cannabis on a federal property, and revenue going to criminal enterprises, gangs, and cartels. So I guess, well, it kind of seems to me like the pharmaceutical industry is one big cartel too. So we're just trying to see who's really on the right side of history here, because cannabis really shouldn't be, if it's illegal at all, then it's not legal, is it? There's just too many limitations, and they're not really deserving of these limitations. So I have to say that. Also, I wanted to report on these other stories not pertaining to cannabis, because my guest isn't here yet, so I haven't planned what to do when she isn't here, except to read from my own notes. We've got the will of the people is the only legitimate ground for government. So if our will isn't represented by the government, then who is it? Who is actually being represented? Is it people with money? I hear her. She's in the hallway. So. And also with the Zimmerman. Now he's been arrested with his girlfriend. Oh, there she is. Okay, well, hey, what's up?
Oh my gosh. It's crazy out there.
So I've briefed everybody about Avalos, and so we've got a call.
Okay.
Hello, caller. You're on the air with SF Liberal Buzz.
Oh, hi there. I was calling, I'm kind of curious, why would John Avalos abandon the progressive movement? It seems like he's like sabotaging the patients, and I don't understand. Could it be political expediency? And I don't think it's good for him to do that. I mean, other than that, he'll just be another Mitt Romney.
Progressives are always being used by moderates.
Well, and unfortunately, we have a whole sort of, gleam of progressivism that when it comes down to it, some of these guys are really using conservative tactics. And this was the biggest use of conservative tactics that I've seen by a progressive seated on our board. He did a hush and push to make sure that the public did not know that he was passing restrictions in his neighborhood and his district that could ultimately affect everyone that, is really affected by this. And so he did the hush and push. He also started working with the neighborhood groups and riling them up. And this all had to do with the fact of protecting one dispensary in his neighborhood's financial interest. So I think everybody needs to look at it from that perspective, especially since we gained access to some sunshine requests, which clearly showed that Green Cross had a business interest in killing the new collective. And
how did we get that information? Through the Freedom of Information Act?
It was a sunshine request, exactly.
Request?
So,
I meant to say that.
what that also does is it shows sort of, if a club owner gives everybody money, everybody will do the wrong thing altogether, and that's not progressive. We needed a supervisor to stand up and say, hold on a second, the neighborhood groups don't have a majority voice in this, and we're artificially riled up against one collective's application.
No.
And it's really wrong. The unfortunate side effect is it sets a trend for supervisors to really cherry pick the dispensaries in their districts and go against, probably the more compassionate and more community-based applicants.
Is this written in stone?
No, well, yeah, it's written in stone that Avalos is getting away with what he's gotten away with because they had the second reading. And then what follows it is a review of the whole city. And that hopefully patients will have some time to slow it down and actually take a look at what's going on to help patients, because this whole thing was put together for patients, not for entrepreneurs.
Well, they're corrupting it now. It's been corrupted into something.
Yeah, clearly it's being corrupted, and people want to take the sort of stance of, well, that's just how business is. But this is healthcare. This isn't just business, this is healthcare. This is about people's access to alternative medicines that are less toxic than what they get prescribed. I have a seizure disorder. If I listed you all the toxic side effects of the medication that, the Western medicine would have me on, and then you tell me that I can only get alternative medicine from one, pet project of a supervisor, I take high offense to that.
As you should, as we all should. It's just people that don't realize what's being pulled on them, and they're just sitting back, having their bonging on while all this is happening,
They are bonging on while all this is happening.
Yeah.
I mean, the unfortunate thing is, we have a lot of folks that are still in the closet about their cannabis use that are making laws that don't reflect the patient's interests. But one project that's going on that from Local 5 Union that Access to Love will take a vote on tomorrow at 4:20 to support is we have the Local 5 has a declaration, a signature declaration, they're not calling it a petition, of the people in San Francisco that support more collectives and also support taxes on adult use and setting up our adult cafes. We are the majority on this. No consumer and no patient wants a monopoly in any district. We want choices and we want variety. And for our city government to limit those choices in a sanctuary city is just like as absurd as the raids in Colorado today. I don't know if you hit on that at all.
I did.
But-
And I read about the 8 points of concern, and they use that every time for all the raids. It seems the feds do about what about the children? What about the distributing out of state and so forth? These 8 points.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, they do use those and et cetera, and it will be interesting to see how the information comes out in the next 48 hours about these raids. Of course, it just happened this afternoon. We know that the VIP clinic in Denver was raided. We know that not only did they raid the collective itself, but they also raided the permitted cultivation site. And here in California, we have been trying desperately to tell, Assemblyman Amiano and all of the people elected at the state level that you do not want to copy Colorado's model. You do not want to not only put in jeopardy the distributor, but also the sites where the cultivation is. And so I think that we have to be really alert that in January, Assemblyman Amiano could enter some really damaging legislation that would have all these growers register and basically put, the small dispensaries and the small scale growing, like you're concerned, they would really kill it. So here we have two supposed progressives really doing damage, Avalos and Amiano. What do they have in common? A donor, Green Cross and Kevin Reed. And I really think it's time for the community as a whole to stand up and say, hey, Assemblyman Amiano, hey, District Supervisor Avalos, who's soon to be termed out and probably trying to run for a citywide office like mayor, you go no further if you keep trespassing on the community as a whole and picking out a small minority of entrepreneurs that give you money. That's not what's at stake here. If you're saying you're progressive, then be progressive, and with your tactics as well. And on that note, I have to tell everybody to watch the agenda for the Land Use Committee. It could either happen tonight at midnight or next Friday at midnight. We're looking at Avalos trying to expand the 500-foot barrier to a 1,000-foot barrier between collectives. So, and we're not going to know till the very last moment because they're trying to hush and push all of this. So we really need activists to help track legislation, because the lobbyists are going to play to whoever gives them the most money, whether they say that they're for us or not. We've seen it play out before, right?
With Occupy. I mean, we have to rise up like Occupy and just take a stand and just be I don't know. I don't want to do what they said, the lady said at the meeting the other day, be a mutiny?
Right.
But mutiny isn't really the word I would want to use, but it would be more like, just have to make our will known, because being quiet and volleying on isn't going to make our will known, is it?
No, not at all. And one thing, an attorney for Lucky Dragon, the phrase he kept using that I see as really effective way to look at this problem is the balkanization, so the separate and divide of the different collectives in San Francisco, so that we're not working as a community, we're only working sort of as, competitors, and that's
divide and conquer,
balkanization of the collectives, whatever. It doesn't help the patients. Patients deserve choices. And we also have to let the supervisors know that, if we can find a better choice than you to sit in your seat, someone who will actually stand up and do the right thing, we'll go for them.
Well, you've got two candidates for assembly, and one seems to be getting money from those donors those aforementioned donors, and one is not.
Actually, Kevin Reed gives to everybody, so he is probably on David Chu's donor list as well.
Just kind of like covering both,
yeah.
roulette, you cover black and
you
red.
cover everything, you know, and a lot of entrepreneurs will do things like that. They'll give both candidates running against each other money because they don't care about what that person's standing up for or not standing up for. What they care about is an open door for their real estate holding concerns. They don't care about me, you, or anybody else.
Read.
Real estate, land grab, you know, it's all about the land grab.
Well, I would think that they'd be glad to have some more dispensaries out there because it's foggy. I used to live in the area. It's foggy. It's cold. There's nothing really out there except maybe a couple nail parlors and just not that much out there really. And
well, that's the irony of it all. Supervisor Avalos did this under the guise of a neighborhood commercial district, but
it's cold out. It's dreary out there.
It is dreary, but a lot of people need employment in his district as well, and a lot of what he killed was 25 union jobs. And collectives in San Francisco tend to hire locally and even within the district. So pushing collectives off the map, using the messaging that we create violence and all these, we don't add to the public safety has actually been disproven by the RAND study and the UCLA research. So for a progressive to beat the drum of reefer madness for just getting in his pet monopoly holder, but that's the whole joke of San Francisco, right? The whole NIMBYism. I love it, but not in my backyard. I'm a progressive, but I won't vote that way.
Who would have thought that this would happen? Yeah, I mean, I went and made public comment for Red Green Cross.
Oh, well, I did in the beginning too.
They were at the meeting, so they weren't giving public comment against it. They were actually for it. Is that why they didn't give any public comment that day?
Well, Kevin Reed was at the meeting briefly. He walked in through the press door and whispered into John Avalos' ear. They did not turn out patients or turn out a spokesperson. The collectives that stood together were Spark, BASA, Mission Organics, Tree Med had a representative there. Waterfall Wellness had folks there. Access to Love was there. The union was there. ASA SF was there. So there was a pretty wide call out that we should all unify against further restrictions. So it was a little bit eerie to see Kevin come in, whisper in the supervisor's ear, and then leave.
That's what I'm saying. When I was there, I thought, well, where did he go? He doesn't really seem to care the outcome because he already seems to maybe know what's going to happen.
Well, I think everybody knew that,
How did Scott Wiener vote on the second round at the board?
They all voted in support of it, all of them. And here's the deal.
Campos too.
Oh, of course, Campos too, and David Chu and Jane Kim, and yeah, they supported restrictions, and I'll tell you why. Because their legislative aides were communicating with each other, and you see, if John Avalos had gotten too much pushback from his colleagues, then he won't vote the right way on their issues. So
That's not governing,
and that's not fair to your constituents or the public. This sort of cloak and dagger secret handshake that basically says, "Hey, I won't mess in your little district if you don't mess in my pile."